said, there's already been some preliminary discussions. Okay, so here we are. Like 1 year ago, the London 2012 Games were in full swing. The happy and glorious Olympic Games, and they were pretty special. I had the opportunity, of course, to take the family to London. Went to Olympic Park, went to a number of the venues. It was really, really brilliant. I never had a chance to go and watch any of the soccer matches, especially with the women's soccer team. But I do remember in the flat that I was staying in Chislehurst, watching the Canada-U.S. game in women's soccer.
So you're going to start this off with Erin, asking her to recall a nightmare.
Well, it was a nightmare, yes. Because Canada wanted to win that game. Canada deserved to win that game. And one of the worst calls in sporting history was made by the official in that game. And I guess Erin McCleod, goaltender for
Erin,
Team
this
Canada.
wasn't my idea. This is all on Jock, okay?
It was the happy and glorious games, but maybe that wasn't the happy and glorious part of the games. Erin, are you with us? Oh, my goodness, we've lost Erin. Oh, Erin.
Hello?
Hey, Erin, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, we just had a few technical glitches there. So, yes, they were the happy and glorious Olympic Games, but that moment, that Canada-U.S., the worst call in sporting history, that wasn't too glorious. That wasn't too happy, was it?
No. I mean, it's a year later now, and I think I've kind of come to terms with it, but I think it was definitely a controversial call. But, the way that Canada actually rallied behind us after that game was incredible. Now we've got the 2015 World Cup coming home to Canada, and the amount of support we've gotten, I think because everyone in Canada felt a little bit ripped off, and, we want another chance. So I'm actually grateful in a weird way that happened.
Well, I'm probably not being real original here, because I'm sure everywhere you go, every Canadian you talk to, everybody wants to talk about that call, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's incredible, actually. I'm playing and living in Chicago right now, and I was just walking down the street, and this woman literally came up to me and started talking about that game, and she started crying. She's Canadian, and started getting all emotional and couldn't believe the call. And I think it's pretty cool that many people are still getting that emotional about that call, an entire year later.
I think it's pretty cool that you're recognized walking down a street in Chicago. I think that's terrific.
True, that's true. It doesn't happen very much.
Oh, come on. The Chicago Red Star, they have to be, on top of everybody's mind in Chicago, right? You're not playing the National Women's Soccer League. How is that league anyway?
The league is great, actually. It's the beginnings of a league. This is a third effort. There's been a couple efforts to have a professional league in North America before, and it hasn't been successful. So I think this time the way that they've budgeted and the way that they've handled the league is a lot better, and I think hopefully it'll stay. And most of the talent is, Canadian national team players, American national team players, and Mexican national team players, and then there's a few Europeans in there. So there's talent from all over the globe, but I think already it has a pretty successful start.
It's a league that is possible because there's a graduating pool of talent, primarily from the NCAA schools, that needs a place to play and that plays the game at an elite enough level that you can draw a crowd, sell tickets, and run a business.
Yeah, definitely. I think to the U.S.'s credit, they do an incredible job with their NCAA programs. I know growing up, it was so important for me to get a scholarship in the U.S. because you get your education paid for and you can play in the most competitive, soccer level at that age. So, they definitely do a great job, and I think this is a good league for all those people that don't get noticed. The league, a couple leagues before this, Abby Wambach was playing on Mia Hamm's team. Mia Hamm, the biggest legend of all time, and Abby Wambach never would have been realized and put onto the national team if it weren't for her professional club team. So it's really an opportunity for more people to get seen.
I do want to talk about your involvement with BMO because, you do a great job as an ambassador in promoting the game, Erin. But since we are a year removed now from the London Olympics, hey, I get the fact the bronze medal win is going to be your highlight. We've already talked about the low-light game. What do you take away from those games, though, just as an athlete who went, because I believe you also competed in Beijing, which, a different experience altogether. But these were the happy and glorious games. So what do you remember as an athlete? And I'm not talking about the medal here.
I think just, like you said, I had been to the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and I tore my ACL at that games, and we didn't go as far, obviously, so it was an altogether different experience. But I think, too, going into this one, there was more expectations on our team, and there was a lot of pressure. Canada hadn't won a medal for traditional team sports since 1926, I believe. So, there was a bit more pressure, and they really had high hopes for us. So going into that, I think it was kind of a cool feeling. And then, of course, as the tournament progressed, just the response we were getting back home and was incredible. That many people were paying attention, to women's soccer. And then I think the highlight was when people got home and they got off the plane and to crowds of people just welcoming them and, that amount of pride that we could have playing our sport, playing for each other, but also reaching that many Canadians was pretty moving. And
what has that medal done for the women's game in this country?
Personally, I think it's totally changed the game. I think one of the great reasons I want to get behind, why I'm a BMO ambassador is, it targets ages 7 to 12. Those are the teams that they're looking at, and that's where we need to start in Canada, just growing the sport from a younger age. And when you have role models, when you have women that are winning medals at Olympics, there's a national team, there's a professional league in North America, when they have somewhere to go and, dreams to catch, basically, I think, kids want it more. And I think that's something that Canada definitely needs to focus more on, being less of a, participation country and more of a competitive one.
The next 3 years pretty important for the program, pretty important for a lot of the national team players individually. You have the World Cup in Edmonton in 2015, and then, of course, you have the Olympics in Rio in 2016. And I wonder at that point if some of the people who have built the program into the kind of given it the kind of momentum it has right now, perhaps beyond Rio, will look at it and say it's time to move on with our lives and do something else. So you hope that even while you are playing out your elite level career, that there are more young people following in the pipeline behind you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that we're struggling with the national team right now. And I know John Herdman, who's the head coach, is definitely focusing on developing the future of the sport. But, that's kind of just for the next couple of years. This program, 7 to 12 years old, I think that's a good place to start, and I think it needs to continue to grow. Sport brings something to kids' lives that, there's confidence and there's character and there's passion for the game. There's all these wonderful things that you get from sport that it's hard to find in other places. So I think it's also important to develop, the kids of the future and that competitive attitude from a young age.
Okay, so you were born in St. Albert. I believe your dad grew up as an Oiler fan, but then you moved here to Calgary. You became a Flames fan, right?
We're live right now. No, you know what? I gotta say, I'm Oilers for life, man. I was born when Wayne and Mark Messier, Kevin Lowe, Ajay Tikkanen, all those guys were on the same team, and they were unstoppable. So it's hard for me. You can never, I don't know if you could ever become a Flames fan if you're an Oilers fan.
I hear what you're saying.
It isn't hard at all. It's easy to be an Oiler fan. I lived through that era too. Our
producer, by the way, Gord Bailey, who took the call from you tonight, he's the biggest Oiler fan I know, so he's in there pumping his fist going, yeah.
That's awesome.
So you're not alone.
Nice.
And all of these fires are being started by Jock Wilson, because I had nothing to do with anything. Okay?
But Erin, let's talk about your involvement with BMO, because you have the Ambassador of the Week program, and I think people have seen the TV commercials, trying to grow the game, as you mentioned. Talk about why you want to become an ambassador.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, like we talked about after the Olympics, we're becoming more and more recognizable, and Diana Matheson, Rain Wilkinson, and myself just thought it was a great opportunity. There's the whole program runs for an entire year, the Team of the Week, and it's great because you get the community involved, because anyone can write in and talk about, the difference their team is making, and there's money that goes towards the team, but also to charities. So it's opening, kids' eyes to those types of things as well. And then there's a grand prize of like $125,000, which goes towards, renovating their soccer pitch, which, for Canada, that's pretty unheard of. And then the overall winner gets to go to a road trip to see Toronto FC or Vancouver Whitecaps, the Impact, or the Canadian national team, and they also get to donate $5,000 to any charity. So it's a pretty phenomenal program. The reason I love it is because, community soccer was such a big part of my development as a person and as an athlete. So, I think it's important to just really keep kids active, especially these days. Like my niece and nephew know how to do everything on an iPad and an iPhone, and I'm asking them for tips. But I think it's really important that, we keep our kids of the future active.
Well, I think I was reading your bio on your website, erinmccleod.net, and the very first young team that you played on here in Calgary didn't win many games. So, that happens, eh? You got to grow somewhere. But and it's funny too, because I talked to Cassie Campbell and Haley Wickenheiser, and when they were young girls growing up, they had to look up to male athletes because they followed the male athletes playing hockey. And now you got these young girls looking up to Haley Wickenheiser and Cassie Campbell. And I think in soccer it's probably the same thing. Now they're looking up to, these young girls playing the game are looking up to the Erin McCleods of the world, and that's got to be kind of gratifying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was my hero growing up, and Craig Forrest, who's goalkeeper for the Canadian national team a long time ago. So, I think it's awesome that we're going to have some female role models, and people know my name, and of course Christine Sinclair, who's going into the Hall of Fame this year. I think it's a really great opportunity for soccer players, but especially young girls in the country, for people to look up to.
I just found it on your website. The Pink Panthers. You lost every game in the peanut league.
We got smoked. We were the only girls team in an all-boys peanut league. Yeah. That's also when I started hating the color pink.
Oh,
so
there you go. There you go. This has been fun. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. It's hard to believe it's been a year since London, eh? Wow.
I know. Crazy.
Time flies. Erin, thank you very much for spending some time with us. Do appreciate it. Good luck with your ambassador program and the Team of the Week for BMO.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Erin.
Oh man, she's an Oiler fan. That's too bad. It was going so well until we brought up the Oilers.
Well, it allowed you to chirp, and that's what you like best.
That is true. That is true.
You get far chirpier when somebody says they're a Rider fan or an Oiler fan than you do if they're cheering for the home team.
That is very true. We got to take a break. I know Jerry's been on hold for.
If I had a case, I would rest it.
Jerry's been on hold for over 30 minutes. He wanted to weigh in on the Stampede quarterbacks. We had a little trouble hooking up with Marcel Desjardins. We finally hooked up with him. Didn't want to break away from that interview. And Jerry, we didn't want to break away from Erin McCleod too, because that was a real fun interview. But Jerry, I promise we'll get to you when we come back on Sports Talk. Jock and Peter on News Talk 770.
I've been with them for years.